Good everybody. Welcome back to Sports. Hopefully, fantastic this year. I'm back on the deal. I don't know them in my team. So, and then if I hit up too high, you see me as if I'm in, like I've got divine intervention because I've got the lightning and the glare. So I'm trying to make it, fit my me. But thanks for tuning in. We got everybody in there. This video is not going to be a long one, but mostly talking about the semi-finals of the World Cup, the fallout from it, and the potential of looking forward to the final, which is why I've named this video "The Master versus the Apprentice." Messi versus Yamal, and the rightful successor to Messi is Yamal. So let's get into it. All right. We'll talk about France versus Spain first, because that was the first semi-final. And footballer is a great humbler. And France did not play well. In the aspect of Spain did not allow France to play well. They basically bullied France. They forced them into mistakes. Players like Rabiot were losing their temper. And you're thinking Rabiot, is one of the elder statesmen in the French side. If he's losing his cool, what's it saying to the younger members of the team? And I can understand why Deschamps hooked him at halftime, to be fair, because you couldn't afford to have a red card in that game. But first and foremost, let's talk about Digne. Digne has just left Aston Villa to go to PSG. And the first day officially that he signed for PSG, he makes one mistake, one howler, where he switched off defensively. He's not looked where Yamal is. Basically kicked out and kicked straight into Yamal. And he's gone over, and it's a Spain penalty. And from that moment, the French were against it. Because, like I said in the previous video, Spain do not concede goals. They've got a very tight defense. The goal against Belgium is the first one they conceded in a very long time, as their defense is so regimented. And that'll be an interesting battle against Argentina on the Sunday night. But back to the France game. Mbappe has come out and said the two-man midfield behind the three doesn't work. And I can understand why he feels that way, especially with the players that we implement there. But in that falls from Didier Deschamps. Deschamps should have left at the last Euros for me. When Spain and Yamal entered the center stage with that crisp effort that he scored 25 yards, I felt that was the end of Deschamps, to be fair. I criticised him at the time for going too far defensive with three-man defensive midfield. But this time around, his persistence on using Rabiot, when you've got someone like Manu Kone, who is levels to me above Rabiot, but each their own at the end of the day. But I found Manu Kone strong, work ethic. He's not likely to do something stupid to get himself a red card. Well, after the game against Morocco, he can keep his anger in check. And this is what I would have played him, or even Aurelien Tchouameni and Manu Kone, or even Eduardo Camavinga. But his persistence when using Rabiot, like I said, near enough cost us, because he could have got himself sent off. He already had a yellow card and he made another stupid foul. And you're thinking, mate, you're supposed to be an elder statesman. You're supposed to have a role model effect on these younger players to make sure they don't lose their minds in these pressure situations. But unfortunately, that's what's happened. But credit to Spain, because they played the ultimate game of chess. And like I say, football is a humbler. And France went into this way overconfident. as if they had already stepped into the final already and bypassed Spain. But Spain have Deschamps and France's number. They've beat them before in the last Euros. They beat them in the Olympics, and now they beat them this time in the World Cup. Yeah, I would say Spain have France's number. Not even one goal. I think the first attempt was in the 80th minute. That's how embarrassing it was. Well scored and well outplayed. Yamal had a field day on that right hand side. Man, like little Buster, come on in the second half, and it's like stretch the pitch. And Francis kept dropping further and further back, and it was damage limitations in some aspects. But then we said this about Spain. Spain, it's not how you start; it's how you finish. And Spain have finished this tournament incredibly well. When you think they've managed to get past Belgium in the previous round, and they've grown into this tournament after their draw in the first match. I believe it's against Cape Verde they drew. But into this tournament, they've grown and grown and grown. And right now, they have to be one of the best teams on the planet. And Lamine Yamal is the rightful successor to Messi. It was him that created the space for Porro to burst through and scored an all-important second goal for Spain. And once it was 2-0, it was game over. France were never coming back into the game. They huffed and puffed at the end, but there was nothing there in the French team. And it was so sad to see that France became basically a blackjack bully in this tournament. They could beat they could beat the teams that they're supposed to beat, but ultimately, when they needed to beat Spain, they were found lacking. And that's as critical as I can be about France. Oh, that's not true. Let's talk about Upamecano. There was a reason that Bayern Munich can't defend, and that's Upamecano. William Saliba was injured, but he carried Upamecano through this tournament. That's how good he is. Maxime Lacroix came in cold, but we said about Maxime Lacroix, what a fantastic defender he is. But he came into this match cold because he had hardly had any game time for France in this World Cup. But one thing that we did see was the frailties to Upamecano. We could even say we had the frailties to Mark Mingan, to be fair. And in these kind of matches, you can't afford to have passengers. Players who play on the fringes or players who just don't play well. And somebody else is having to carry the can for them. And William Saliba, hope he's back soon, but I think it's going to be about 5 months, mate. That's how bad his back injury is. But hey, I hope he's back for Arsenal quicker than that. But then maybe Arsenal might buy a centre back in the window. We don't know. So yeah. But we need to talk about how like Spain suffocated France and how they pushed them back and pushed them back. And you have to remember, this is a free-scoring French team that had the people scared of them before this match, and Spain just basically just slapped them silly, to be fair. And fair play to them for it. Now, the next semi-final we'll talk about is the one that I think I'm going to get criticised. I might get penalties, but you know what? Life is very short. And that is England versus Argentina, the one from last night. Come off the hour, come off the man. It's the best saying that could be used for Lionel Messi. And the one that can describe Harry Kane. Harry Kane is an amazing goal scorer, but he is not a big game player. And hopefully it puts to bed the myth that he steps up in semi-finals and finals. He did not step up for England last night. It was basically an episode of Where's Wally, You couldn't find Harry Kane. He was that far back. But then, this is the bit that I really like. Thomas Tuchel was negative before the tournament. And I said before, if anyone watches my previous videos before about England, I said that this man there, England played putrid football. But they might win was the answer. I said, never, not with this brand of football. As soon as they meet somebody big, a bit like France in the aspect of they're a flat chat bully. You could beat the likes of DR Congo that you're supposed to beat, but you make a mountain out of a molehill doing it. You can beat the Mexicos, but you make a mountain out of a molehill doing it, basically beating them 3-2, but you had a man sent off, so. But then in that game, yeah, he went defensive in that game as well. And you can get past the Norways, yeah, who basically only have Erling Haaland and a few others like Martin Odegaard, Aursnes, Nusa. But when you meet the big boys and the competition starts in earnest, can you get over the line against one of those? And the answer yesterday was a catastrophic no. And it was all about, if you remember the Euro final, England versus Italy, England scored in that game and essentially dropped back further and further back. And that was under Southgate. We dropped further and further back and essentially it gave the momentum to Italy. And Italy scored 2 goals and won the game. This is exactly the carbon copy of what happened yesterday. England scored in the 50th minute, in the 58th minute, through Anthony Gordon. A lovely goal set up by Morgan Rogers and Anthony Gordon. Where you'd think that England would go out to try and get a second one to try and kill off the tie, maybe learn from the last mistake, Thomas Tuchel decided to essentially take off Anthony Gordon, who scored the goal, and bring on the defender to try and shore up the thing. But it was half an hour left to go. This is the amazing aspect of it. If you had like 10 minutes, fair enough, and you're holding on, fair enough. But not with half an hour left to go. That is ultra negative. And it basically invited the pressure from Argentina, and boy, did Argentina take it. But then Argentina are one of those teams there that they concede, but they don't know when to lie down. And that's a fantastic facet to have. Is they never say that attitude, which is why I put it in the chat, in the thing for it. Please put your names in the chat. Please put your thoughts down in the chat for this one. But Argentina have a never say die attitude. And the game against Egypt should have told people that with 10 minutes to go, they were 2-0 down, and then to win the game 3-2 in normal time. No extra time needed. Then you have to factor in the last match against Switzerland, they found a way to get past the stubborn Swiss defence here. And while they scored early for Alexis McAllister, Switzerland come back into the game from Mendoza. And then Argentina still found another way. And Julian Alvarez came to the party, and so did Lautaro Martinez. How ironic. Now, in this game here, right, once Tuchel had made his substitution in the 70th minute, and the tide had turned to Argentina, it was just like pot shots after pot shots after pot shots. A man like Enzo Fernandez, the one who gets criticised by Chelsea fans, who was about to join Real Madrid, but Real Madrid had pulled the plug, and I think he will stay at Chelsea another season. Alonso's come out and said he wants to keep him. So, but Enzo Fernandez comes in, he hits one earlier, yeah, like a warning shot to England to say, look, man, we mean business. England didn't heed the warning, and a few minutes later, he hits one that Pickford has to pick out the back of his neck. It was a stunning strike. And it was what would say back in the days when you get a good lick, it was well received. That was well received. And the thing is, yeah, once that first blow had come in, yeah, that's when you just knew straight away. Once Argentina had scored, they're gonna win this game. It doesn't matter if it's normal time or extra time. Argentina are gonna win this game because everything was in Argentina's favor. And lo and behold, a few minutes later, England concede again, and this time it's by my boy, Lautaro Martinez. The man who scores for Inter Milan for fun, crept into the area and headed the ball in, leaving Pickford with little to no chance. And you know when Tuchel makes a mistake here because as extra time came here, he threw on Ivan Toney, a poor Ivan Toney who had not played in this tournament or played very few minutes in this tournament, and he threw on Rashford. But by that time, the game had already gone. And this is the danger of playing defensive football way too early. And it fits in with a line from, and I'm going to put this on my BMGT. I swear we're going to do some work on BMGT, but it's from the Highlander. And it goes, when you see the, how do I say now? In a church, it's a church scene in there. And I always get his name wrong. I don't want to get his name wrong, you know. The Kurgans. Sorry. But the Kurgan's in the church and he's talking to the father. And the man's like, the Kurgan's making a proper dispute, proper noise in the church. And the priest goes up to me and goes, mate, we have parishioners here. Please don't make a noise. And the Kurgan replies to him, it is better to burn out than to fade away. And that is exactly what England did in this game. They faded away. Instead of going for the jugular and after having a 1-0 lead and going for a second one and having a bit of comfort, they decided to sit back and they truly got what they deserved and was well received. But then this is the type of football that they played during the tournament because they weren't exactly pleasing to the eye and they weren't exactly good to watch. Well, pleasing to the eye, good to watch is the same thing. But they weren't exactly doing anything good in this tournament. And they were getting through by moments. And this is why I relate them to Tottenham. They're very much a moments team. The likes of Bellingham, Kane against DR Congo, Anthony Gordon in this match were helping England get through the tournament. Not one game did they actually grip by the neck here and say, look, yeah, we are England. Not once did England look like that. They left all the creative players like Foden, Palmer at home. So did actual Tuchel believe that England can go into this tournament winning it? Because I don't think he did. And I think he relied on those moments. But then sometimes, yeah, in life, there's always a, quote my Star Wars again, there's always a bigger fish. At this time, England found a bigger fish, and that was Argentina. And I love how the Argentinians, fans in there, celebrated it. Because you could see the euphoria in them. And they are the 12th man for them. But for England, it's a case of what if. And if I was England, what I would do is when that man Tuchel comes back into England, come back into the airport, yo, I'm waiting for my P45 for his ass. I'm telling you now, man, he'll be coming in there. Next thing, he'll be getting the P45. You get the hell out of there, blood. Then you take your negative football with you. You know, them ones there. But we're going to talk about the third, fourth place match. Like I said, football is a humbler. And England have become into this third, fourth place match. A bit like France here, licking your wounds. For France, yeah, this is going to be Deschamps' last game before Zidane takes over. And boy, I can't wait for Zidane to come in because I can't do Deschamps again. Yes, he won the World Cup in 2018, but my gosh, his football's bad. Some of it's just awful, but that's just the way he was, because he was a DM back in his playing days. While going forward, we're fantastic. Defensively, we're ropey. Midfield-wise, his persistence with Rabiot has got on my nerves for the last 4 years, and I'm glad that he's going in some aspects. I can't do him again. Not another 4 years, not another 2 years. Just no. You had your shot, you're done. But then that's football. You have to be ruthless. Like I said, France going forward, yeah, are some of the scintillating, breathtaking, all these superlatives. But defensively, if Upamecano, hell no. Even with Digne, nah. And then Mark Mingan, he's not authoritative enough for me, but he should have run. Like I said, put in the chat what you think. What's your thoughts on this? But both teams will be licking their wounds coming into the Saturday match with third, fourth place playoff. Who gets the bronze medal? Personally, I'll just track that in the bin, but you know what I mean? I got some standards, them ones there. But after that, what we have is the creme de la creme, and that is the World Cup final. The Master versus the Apprentice. Would-be successor. You have Messi and Argentina versus Yamal and Spain. You have Rodri controlling, and that man has to be shot for Ballon d'Or again. This man is one of the best central midfielders in the world. Actually, he is the world's best central midfielder. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. He is the world's best central defensive midfielder. And another one who's been underrated wickedly in this tournament is Pogba. The boy is only, I think he's 18, 19. But you think that Yamal came through the last Euros as a 16-year-old. And you think you're going to have to wait a few years to have another generation of 16-year-olds. No, not at all. Pogba is generational. This man played the semi-final as if it was just like a normal Sunday match. And he was like water off a duck bag. There was no agitation, there was no hesitation, it was just straight up a magnificent performance from him. And you know when people say about Archie Gray is generational? Nah. If Archie Gray is generational, what is Pogba? To that matter, what is Lamine Yamal? What is Lamine Yamal if my man is generational, brother? Because these must be like astronomical figures, you know what I mean? But this is, when you look at Spain and the makeup of that team and how they've grown in confidence during this tournament, like I said, they started in the first game, they got a draw, and people were writing them off. I said, no. What they had is a lack of width. Yamal had only come back from injury 2 months before this game. So it was touch and go. And if you think that he's been off for 2 months here, he can still reach this level of form, it's just tremendous. Then you had to add in that little buster, Nico Williams, wasn't on the left-hand side as well. They played Baena there. So there's no natural width because Bayern is more of a creative source than the natural width on that side. He can play that way. He's played that way for Atletico in some matches, but Atletico don't usually play him. They usually play a lot more on the left-hand side, to be fair, and he's usually a sub. Well, that's the games I've seen of him. He usually comes on as a sub. Each their own end of the day. They've got a talented squad and they've improved again this summer with the likes of Hormand. But we'll talk about some of these transfers later on, not right now. This is more about a World Cup show. But Spain have grown during this tournament. and they've earned their way to this final. Gritty, determined performances, like against Belgium, like I said. They conceded their first goal, and yet, in a long time, yet they just carried on going. And Mikel Marino came to their rescue again after the time he came to the rescue against Portugal. So they found the ways to get through. And this is why you look at them and you think you're a serious threat in this tournament. And their defense, like I say, is watertight, doesn't concede goals. Now, we'll talk about the two later, a little bit more. But now we'll talk about Argentina and the never say die attitude. This is a team that does not know when to lie down. They keep on going. They don't mind being goal down because they know they have that confidence in them that they can come back into games. As England found to their pain last night, Egypt found to their pain 2 rounds earlier. Switzerland the round before England. This team does not know when it is beaten. And they score from multiple sources. Yes, Messi leads the way. But when you've got Alexis McAllister coming in, scoring goals, when you've got man like Enzo Fernandez scoring goals, when you've got the likes of Lautaro Martinez being a super sub and scoring goals, when you've got Julian Alvarez scoring a goal, they've got dangerous players all over the pitch. And they will hurt you given, especially if you encourage them on, like England did last night. This is going to be a game for the ages, I feel. And it's going to be the master versus the apprentice because when you look at Yamal, Yamal has come through the Barcelona camp a bit like what Messi did years before him. And while Messi was a right winger, so is Yamal, our runner. And Yamal has stepped into that Barcelona team and taken the place of Messi, like I say, successor. And I feel this is going to be the first time that both of them are going to be opposing teams. How much of an influence are both of these players going to have? Because Lamine Yamal is just something else. But tell me your thoughts. What do you think about these players? Like I said, I could be wrong, but that's my opinion at the end of the day. And I like to have my opinion challenged. So with that, I'm going to end this show right here. Thank you for tuning in to Sports Centric. We should do a show maybe Sunday, talk about the third, fourth place playoff, the losers final. And we'll talk about some of the World Cup final, maybe a bit more. But then we might do a show Monday, to talk about the World Cup final in its full glory. We don't know yet, but we'll find out. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Adios.